If this episode wasn't crazy enough with the emotional backstory of Miranjo's childhood to really understanding the connection between the king and her, to end it with Kage becoming this weird monstrous form to save Boji's life, which truthfully, had he not done that, I don't think there's an argument that Boji would have survived it. The start of this episode had him winded to the point that he literally had to tie his sword to his hand because he didn't have the strength to hold it himself as he's jumping and trying to fight for his life. I know a lot of people thought maybe, Queen Hilling might be the saving grace, but they quickly establish in this episode that even if her light does affect him, ultimately she doesn't have any more potions. It was lucky enough that she had any strength after basically catching her breath to save a piece there. So she was out, but of course, the lightning blast, right? That's what I thought was going to happen. Saw a lot of people be like, okay, we just gotta get the king of the underworld. He'll do another blast and we'll be fine. Nope, that's not going to work either. Oh shit, Despa gets stabbed. Everyone is literally screwed. And Kage, of all characters, might be the one to stop this nightmare. That was least on my list, and I didn't see a single person predict Kage might be the reason they might get out of that predicament. But holy shit, what a turn of events. They literally established two ways to hurt this nightly creature who I thought, honestly, I saw a lot of people questioning him. I wonder what Oaken looks like under his helmet. I was thinking more along the zombie nature because just immortality, he lost his humanity. He actually looks pretty damn similar, just the eyes are completely soulless, which I thought is such a brilliant touch. There might be some people who say, I wish he was a little more ugly given what happened to his soul, but given the fact that the eyes are kind of considered the window to one's soul, the fact that it was just so pale and lifeless, I thought was actually a much better reaction and kind of realization to what he actually looks like under that helmet. But damn, this episode, man. This episode was twists and turns and just unexpected curveballs left and right. And Miranjo has been a character I've wanted to know even more of since we got introduced to her. But over the course, seeing more about how she's responsible for Boji's mother's death, the weird connection that, is it loyalty? Is it a debt that needs to be paid? Because we know the king, as much as he kind of seemed like he cared about Miranjo, at the same time, he very much has been going behind Miranjo's back in order to get people like Boji, the queen, safe and out of harm's way. Like, the first time they kind of had those hellhounds that were going to go kill the queen, he literally killed one of them so that Dorshe would be able to, protect the queen and things like that. He very much seems to be in a situation where he's indebted to the devil because of everything that's happened. He very much cares about his modern family, but also clearly loves Miranjo. And I love how he explains it as a child, a mother, a mentor. There's so many conflicting kind of ideas of what she is to him. And I think that goes to explain why this man's sitting in a jail cell, trying to both help Boji and the family, but also not let her get killed in the process. Very complex for sure. But to see just what Miranjo's mother and her life was like before the betrayal, it was heartbreaking, man. I know some people thought that picture, I think it was either in last week or the week before, we saw a picture of who looked like a child like Miranjo and then an older Miranjo. And some people are like, oh wait, did she have a kid? I was under the assumption that was her mother, and that's what it turned out to be. But to see how, the war with the gods and what it did to this world, powerful sorcerers going up against gods, sometimes they'd be able to win. Most of the time, the gods would push back and be victorious, and how it eventually escalated into joining forces with this neighboring kingdom, and how they were very poor, very isolated, but ultimately very scummy from day one. And the fact that they explained the history, after they rose them up, right? They taught them all these beautiful things. You go from this third world country to something that looks very modern, like the king's own kingdom. And the fact that when they're on the battlefield, if they were winning and, they didn't need to do anything, they would do these horrible atrocities and torture the gods. But if it looked like they were being pushed back, they would flee. And the fact that when it came time to pick a side, when it was, do or die, they switched to the damn god side and just brutally killed the kindest person next to Boji that we've met in this show. The idea that even though knowing you're being scammed by someone coughing about needing medicine, the idea of wanting to change them and make them better, goddamn, what a heart of gold. And to see what she was like and how she was taught, and then remembering what she told Daida about being tortured, I am really starting to understand how someone, this little girl raised in such a kind-hearted way, who's being blamed for these atrocities, could then in return do very horrible things that at face value, like thinking the queen would be an evil stepmother archetype, everyone is becoming so much more, and even if it doesn't excuse certain actions, it definitely explains how they might have reached that point before said actions were committed. Ranking of Kings, we are now 18 episodes in to this 23 episode adventure. And I am so happy they didn't rush through this invasion kind of plotline, because I was pretty sure, but I also had a little worry when we initially were like going back to the kingdom, because just comparing other anime, other stories I've seen in a similar vein, it almost feels like you might get 6 episodes and then we'd call it quits sort of a thing. But the fact that it's really divided into 2 parts for this season, you know, it's Boji kind of like the training arc and kind of leaving the kingdom, or learning so much about the world and its history, establishing all the characters, and this is kind of like the resolution of part 1 of the Ranking of Kings story. And the fact that we're not just going like, okay, Boji came to the rescue, stabbed a couple of fools, and then all was well. No, there's so many characters at play, and it doesn't have to be focused on Boji, it doesn't have to be focused on Hilling or, you know, Kage. It doesn't need to focus on any particular character, because who's ever on screen is that damn compelling. And honestly, damn man, I don't know, like it feels like at a moment's notice next episode, there is a good handful of characters who could die. The captain of the guard there, Despa, Boji. I mean, Boji's probably the safest out of everyone, but still, I mean, we've seen characters lose limbs a lot, though we never quite know what's gonna happen. Either way, it is interesting to see Miranjo painted in this light, knowing more about her history now, and we've seen 2 very different sides of her history, the murderous mom killer and the innocent child who lost everything, it seems like, and the fact that in this present day, she's reflecting more and more on her mother's teaching, almost like she kind of forgot it at some point, but now dealing with Kage and Boji, almost like it's kind of sinking back into her psyche, and the fact that she has made warnings and things like that. I think we're about to see an interesting arc with Miranjo, and what that means, it's hard to say, because that could still lead to deaths, but I'm excited to see nonetheless. I mean, seriously, I just keep refreshing wanting to pre-order this one, because this is something that is just, it already impresses me with its animation, just like when Boji at one point was dodging, if you were to go like almost frame by frame, like pause it every millisecond, every second, give or take, you saw like how his body and his character design, the line work, like it looks sloppy in a pause motion, but it gives it such energy and freedom that most anime studios, they don't go with that type of character design and animation style. But when you have this little boy who is so fast, and even when winded, he's starting to get a little more sloppy with his dodges, but the way the animation perfectly captures that, I need a Blu-ray. I really, really do, because I need to be able to see this not compressed in streaming or anything. Like, it already looks good with what I'm seeing. Damn, this needs to go in the collection, and I know I'm not alone, because a lot of people are saying the same thing. And if this isn't also going to be something I'm going to start buying figures of as well, like, god damn, like, this show is just so good. I want to support it in every capacity, / just always be reminded of it, because this is an anime I never want to forget. Thoughts and feelings on this week's Ranking of Kings episode. Just when you think it can't get crazier with cliffhangers or backstories, episode 18 proves us wrong, am I right? But thoughts and feelings, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.